Hey everybody, here's the rest of my footage from my trip to Xi'an. I went to see the Bing Ma Yong, the Terra Cotta army of 221 BC, with the first unification of China under the Qin dynasty. The emperor's name was Qin Shi Huangdi, and he's remembered now as a very brutal man, but also his resume is pretty impressive. He built the Terra Cotta army. He started the construction of the Great Wall also, and he standardized China's currency and written system and their system of measurement as well. But he's remembered as a very brutal man who the legal code under his rule, for example, the punishment for murder was death by 10,000 cuts, literally. So he was a very brutal man. And he was also a big-time womanizer. In about 35 or 38 years of rule, he was reported to have been with a different woman every night. So he was, I don't know, he's remembered especially by China's women as being a really tyrannical and horrible man. But his list of accomplishments is pretty impressive nonetheless. And here's my footage from when I went to see one of his most famous works of all, the Terra Cotta Army. There's a saying here that if you want to know 100 years of history in China, then you should go to Shanghai. If you want to know 300 years of Chinese history, you should go to Beijing. But if you want to know 5,000 years of Chinese history, you should come to Xi'an. And in fact, I just went to a museum with an ancient village that was over 6,000 years old. So, well, we're visiting the Terra Cotta Army today, 2,200 years old. That's only a little bit of Chinese history altogether, but ironically we're visiting it on the anniversary of the communist takeover of China, October 1st, and it looks like a few other people had the same idea as we did. This is just the crowd outside. It'll get worse. This place is like the size of a football field. This is just one of the tombs. This is the Terra Cotta Army. They were built in 221 BC with the first unification of China under the Qin dynasty. This is only the very first of 3 pits. This is the biggest one, but they've still only excavated about 2,000 of the soldiers here out of about 6,000, and they're waiting to excavate the other ones until they have techniques to preserve the special coloring that was used on them, because these ones have lost their color due to the sunlight. This is the second pit, and they're still working on the excavation of it, so you don't really see any warriors yet. But originally the emperor was just going to bury like 8,000 of his own actual human army. He was that brutal, but instead one of his ministers finally convinced him to construct the Terra Cotta army instead. And I'm in pit 3 now. This is kind of like where the higher ranking officers figures would be. And they didn't give these guys any weapons because they were too close to where the emperor was buried. They didn't want them trying to kill him again. I can't even describe to you what it was like originally walking into that place and just seeing just how big it is. And how big it is combined with how old it is, it's really just overwhelming. I don't know how to describe it to you, but if you ever get a chance to see it, you should. Yeah, I mean, one thing that really strikes me from that is the Emperor Qin Shi Huangdi must have been pretty much the definition of a megalomaniac. I don't know, he's another thing that happened under his rule was the burning of the books, which is basically where one of his ministers convinced him to burn any book in the kingdom that like disagreed with him philosophically at all, and he also buried alive hundreds of intellectuals who opposed him. So he was extremely corrupted by his power, but I don't know. Seeing his army was pretty unbelievable. They still haven't actually dug out his main tomb because there's supposed to be rivers of mercury in there, so it would be a bummer to be one of the workmen that was assigned to that task. All in all, his tomb, the Terra Cotta army was only a small part of the huge tomb that was constructed for him. He basically had a tomb city all for himself, more or less. It took about 700,000 people to construct this thing, so it was ridiculous. And a lot of that's been destroyed now throughout history, but the Terra Cotta army remains, and man, it was dazzling. So I don't know. Thanks for watching, and there's gonna be more blogs to come. I think it's gonna be in the future. It's gonna be probably less to do with traveling, although I am going to Beijing in a couple weeks, so I'll show you my footage from the Great Wall and everything like that. But I think for most of the rest of the semester, it's going to be probably less about my travel exploits and more about everyday life. So stay tuned for that, and thanks for thinking about me and praying for me, and I'll see all you guys sooner than you think. So have a good day.